The Sacramento Kings fall to 1-2 as they lose to the Lakers 127-120. A Lakers team that was without LeBron James, without Luka Doncic. Austin Reaves comes in, drops 51 points. And the main storyline of this game was the free throw differential. The Los Angeles Lakers shooting 46 free throws to the Kings 18 free throws. Now, we all know the stories about the Kings and Lakers and officiating and free throws. And while sure, as a biased Kings fan, there were some calls that I felt didn't go the Kings' way that should have gone the Kings' way, that was absolutely not the story of this game. The Lakers deserved to have a lot more free throws than the Kings, and it was because the Kings were just playing some very undisciplined defense, playing defense with their hands instead of with their chests. But it's hard to even blame the Kings for doing that because they're so undersized. And that's the biggest problem with this team right now. And even when Keegan Murray comes back, even when Nate Clifford comes back, it still is probably going to be a problem. Of course, those guys will help it, but the Kings are just so undersized. They rolled out their third different starting lineup of the season in 3 games. This time starting Keon Ellis in the place of Keegan Murray. So you have Dennis Schroeder, Keon Ellis, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Domantas Sabonis. And I do think that that was the right play to start Keon Ellis. I liked what Keon Ellis brought to this game. He was very much needed. And I actually think going forward, Keon should continue to start, even when Keegan Murray comes back, but I'll get into that a little bit later. He ended up fouling out in this game, though. Defensively, the Kings were pretty much in shambles the entire game. Everyone got into foul trouble, as you would expect when the Lakers are shooting 46 free throws. Offensively, the Kings looked fine. I mean, they scored 120 points. Zach LaVine with another 30-plus point game. Dennis Schroeder with a double-double with points and assists. DeMar DeRozan, for a time, was carrying the offensive load. Malik Monk and Russell Westbrook both had good offensive games off the bench. But it just doesn't matter, because yes, you have all of these guards scoring and getting their numbers and getting assists, but when you can't defend on the other end, when the Lakers have a guy like Rui Hachimura, who the Kings just cannot match up against, that's a problem. And it's not like Rui had a massive game, but he was just part of the equation, part of the chess match that was being played by these two teams, where the Kings couldn't send numbers at a guy like Austin Reaves very often, because guess what? That would leave a mismatch for a Rui Hachimura or a DeAndre Ayton. The Kings offense kept them in this game, and all those great performances from the guys that I listed absolutely kept them in this game. But we also have to remember that this is a Lakers team without LeBron James, without Luka Doncic. And sure, you could say like Austin Reaves, he went for 51. He's not going to go for 51 every night. He was hitting some very tough shots, but I think we've been through this enough with this Kings team over the last few years of guys constantly going off against the Kings that it's not just some coincidence. We can't just say, oh, it won't happen next time, because it always will, because there's something to it where the Kings are throwing out these defenses and these bad perimeter defenders and letting guys get into rhythm. And in this game, it was letting Austin Reaves get into rhythm from the free throw line, because he didn't start this game super efficiently from the field, but he got that rhythm at the free throw line, then was able to extend that range out to the three-point line, and he made 6 of the Lakers' 8 three-pointers. Jake LaRavia made the other 2. Kings legend Jake LaRavia, who played 33 minutes for the Lakers. The Kings could have really used him in this game. I think one of the things that is the most frustrating about watching this Kings team, especially in this game, is just that, it's not even down to effort or anything like that. Because the Kings came out, Dennis Schroeder was picking up 94 feet. Keon Ellis was picking up 94 feet. You could see Dennis Schroeder was really making a concerted effort to make Austin Reaves feel uncomfortable. Anywhere Austin Reaves went, Dennis Schroeder was attached to him. You could see the Kings came out with the game plan of we have to take away Austin Reaves as their main scorer, as their main ball handler. And he still went for 51 points. So the Kings came out with that in mind, and he still went for 51. And that's where you can really see there's a problem with this Kings team defensively. Because the problem was, if Dennis Schroeder is picking up 94 feet, if Austin Reaves gets even a half a step on him, then somebody from the Kings has to step up and help. And a lot of times that was Domantas Sabonis stepping up from the paint. But then the problem isn't Domantas Sabonis stepping up, it's who's behind him, who's helping the helper. And a lot of times that is DeMar DeRozan. And that's not a good sign. When DeMar DeRozan is your guy on the back line trying to break up these passes, a lot of times they're alley-oop passes. DeMar just wasn't quick enough to the spot. and he wasn't able to provide any of the athleticism necessary to break up these passes. And so that's where the Kings really got hurt. And so the Kings couldn't commit to being that aggressive defensively because they knew if they got beat at all, pressuring full court, then they were screwed on the back line. The Lakers were just able to get into the paint very, very easily. No matter what defense the Kings threw out there, the Lakers were able to get to the paint. For a lot of this game, when the Kings were throwing out some of the weirdest lineups we've ever seen, like 4-guard lineups. I mean, if you count DeMar DeRozan as a guard, they were pretty much playing 4-guard lineups for almost the entire game. Other teams in the NBA now in this day and age, they value versatility so much and switchability. And so some teams go into switch everything defensive schemes because of how much versatility they have defensively. The Kings were just switching everything at one point because everyone was equally as small as the other guy. Everyone stood an equal chance at defending whoever was handling the ball, which was a very small chance of actually getting the stop. And so it's just hard to envision this Kings team of picking up many wins when they just have zero size to defend anyone. Rui Hachimura got off to a hot start with 10 points in the first quarter. He only ended with 18 points because obviously other guys picked it up from there, but he had those 10 points early on because he's being guarded by first DeMar DeRozan, then I think a little bit by Dario Saric, then by Dylan Cardwell. I mean, he's eating good. And the Kings offense started out not great as well. They were pretty out of rhythm. They had some really bad turnovers in the half court. The half court offense looked really bad. It was totally out of rhythm. There was no flow to it. And Sabonis was like trying to run these dribble handoffs, and it just didn't look like he was on the same page as anyone. It resulted in turnovers, resulted in more paint touches for the Lakers on the other end. The Kings were able to stay in the game because of their transition offense. Like Keon Ellis immediately off the tip stole the ball and went for a dunk. He got another steal as well. Zach LaVine hit a 3, got a dunk in transition. It was mostly Zach LaVine scoring in transition. That's how the Kings were able to stay in this game. Eventually, the half-court offense came around. They got into rhythm a little bit. But I think you could see at times in this game where the spacing was a big problem and where Sabonis didn't feel comfortable in the offense. Sabonis had a pretty poor game on both ends of the floor, but I think offensively a lot of it had to do with him just not having spacing out there. Being out there a lot of times with 2 or 3 other non-shooters. And that's just not a way to build an offense around Domantas Sabonis, and it really hurt when you're trying to run these dribble handoffs. Eventually the Kings kind of figured it out late into the fourth quarter when they just kind of had Keon Ellis and DeMar DeRozan sitting in the corners, and they were running 3-man action between Sabonis, LaVine, and Schroeder, but that's not something that you can rely on for the entire game. And also, you don't want DeMar DeRozan sitting in a corner. The fit of DeMar DeRozan in this offense is one of my biggest question marks, because in this one, in the first quarter, when he's playing with the starters, he just doesn't seem like he fits into the way the Kings want to play offensively. It started in the preseason, it's continued into the regular season where he just doesn't get any shot attempts early in the game. And his only offense comes in later when he's playing with bench units. And so that's why I think when Keegan comes back, he should replace DeMar in the starting lineup, because you need the defense of a guy like Keon Ellis from the guard position. And you saw what Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis were doing defensively to start this game. They were both being pests. I liked what I saw from them, but it was the backline defense that struggled. And so maybe the Kings can actually find some success if they have that point of attack defense of both Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis, plus Keegan Murray helping out on that backline instead of DeMar DeRozan. I think the Kings could find some success there. You're also getting better spacing and probably a better flowing offense with Keegan Murray in there as a floor spacer. And then you can let DeMar DeRozan just run the bench unit offensively, which he seemed more comfortable with in this game anyways. Because Sabonis picked up 2 fouls in this game, and he picked up 2 dumb fouls, fouling jump shooters. The Kings fouled 2 3-point shooters in this game. One of them was Sabonis, one of them was Keon Ellis, that were fouling 3-point shooters. But Sabonis went out, and normally him and DeRozan would come out, at least that's what we saw last game, and then they would come back in together. But because Sabonis had those 2 fouls, DeRozan came back in without Sabonis and was playing with a majority bench lineup. And that's where DeRozan started to get his offense going. And so that's why I'm thinking move DeRozan to the bench when Keegan Murray comes back, have him cook offensively with the bench unit, and then have a more balanced offensive unit where the spacing is much better and it fits together more defensively. But like I mentioned earlier, the Kings' half-court offense did pick up a little bit, and a lot of it was through Dennis Schroeder doing a very good job of breaking into the paint. He was very good at either getting to the rim and getting those quick little layups off before the defense could really even contest it, or by kicking out to the corners. He kicked out to Keon for a corner three. He kicked out to Levine for a corner three. He has been very good early in this season about getting into the paint and kicking out to open shooters. And that's why he had 18 points and 12 assists in this game. He had that double-double. He was very good offensively at doing that. Then when the bench came in, you had Drew Eubanks coming in for Domantas Sabonis when Domantas Sabonis got in foul trouble. And Eubanks went to that reverse pivot spin move that he always does. And he put in a wedgie. That was just like, that perfectly encapsulated what Drew Eubanks has been doing. He was very bad in his few minutes in this game. And for a little bit, the Kings decided to go big, and they put Dylan Cardwell out there with Drew Eubanks. That didn't last very long, and instead they had Dylan Cardwell playing the backup center for the rest of the game instead of Drew Eubanks, which I was very happy with, because if you listen to my last recap in the game against the Jazz, I was talking about how I hope we don't have to wait a super long time to see Dylan Cardwell again. Well, we didn't have to wait very long. We got him back right away, and so I'm very happy that Doug Christie is going with Dylan Cardwell as the backup center here, or seemingly going with Dylan Cardwell, because I think you can see the promise is there with Dylan Cardwell. Now, he had 13 minutes, and he picked up 4 fouls, right? Sometimes the hands come down, the hands need to stay up. He picked up a bad foul that I'll get to later on in the third quarter, I believe it was. But you can also see the impact he has as a defender around the rim, as a rebounder, and I think the potential is there as kind of an offensive rebounding type of guy who can thrive by getting offense through putbacks and catching alley-oops. Now, he isn't there offensively yet. He missed a putback dunk, and he definitely does not look great offensively. Had a bad turnover, but then won the ball back like he was back checking in hockey, or was like, turned the ball over as a soccer player and was immediately running back to get it. Like, it reminded me of like soccer or hockey, the way he just threw the ball away and then immediately ran back and just like grabbed it and ripped it away from the Laker. But pretty much what I'm saying is Dylan Cardwell was absolutely all over the place. I mean, he got a block and he started just hyping up the crowd. I said last game that I was hoping that Dylan Cardwell would stay in Sacramento a lot because of his bench reactions, and I was wrong. I should have said because of his on-court reactions, because he's even better reacting to his own stuff that he does on the court, which is pretty funny. So I liked that they went to him, and I want to see him continue to develop. What I wasn't super happy with was that we saw more Dario Saric than Isaac Jones. Now, not a lot more, because Dario only played 4 minutes and Isaac Jones played 1 minute, but for me, you saw Dario Saric's weaknesses as an athlete. When DeMar DeRozan, towards the end of the first quarter, he started cooking 3 straight buckets in the mid-range, and the Lakers went to a 3-2 zone to stop him from just posting up and getting easy buckets in the mid-range, targeting Austin Reaves. And the lack of shooting in a lineup of Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, Malik Monk, Dario Saric, and Dylan Cardwell was evident. And also the lack of athleticism from Saric running the baseline was evident. And so the Kings brought in Schroeder for Saric. So the Kings' response to Dario Saric not working is bringing in another guard, and that was pretty much the response all game. It was just more guards, more guards, more guards. And so Isaac Jones plays 1 minute. I understand Isaac Jones was not good last game. He hasn't been good. He wasn't good in preseason. But for me, I think you just have to play Isaac Jones at this point, because you just cannot play as small as the Kings are playing. It's not viable. And so as many mistakes as Isaac Jones might make, I think you have to let him play through those mistakes, just because he has the size and athleticism that you need. And so if he even has a little bit of potential to make a positive impact on your lineup, I think you have to give him that opportunity to see what he can do. At least give him consistent run for a couple of weeks here to see if you can mold him into what you need. Because with Keegan Murray out, you need a physical foreman, and Isaac Jones is really the only guy on your roster that's going to give you that. So after a rough defensive first quarter and kind of offensive first quarter, the Kings had a much better second quarter, and a lot of it was sparked through the energy and effort of Russell Westbrook. He hit 3 threes. He was just taking over. He was also active on the offensive glass, active on the defensive glass. And I think him and Sabonis both getting after it on the offensive glass is a fun combination. You also had Malik Monk as a spark plug off the bench. So it is fun to have both Russell Westbrook and Malik Monk as your spark plugs off the bench. And it's funny that we have Dennis Schroeder, Malik Monk, and Russell Westbrook, all guys who have been guards for the Lakers, playing in this game against the Lakers. And all of them had pretty good games. Monk, after an awful defensive game against Phoenix, he had a good defensive game against Utah. He had another pretty solid defensive game. Immediately in that second quarter, came up with 2 blocks. And the blocks are nice. He's very good at blocking shots for a guard. But he also had a steal that I was even more excited about because he just blew up a handoff play. It was giving so much effort, chasing, I believe it was Austin Reaves, around a handoff, and was able to get in there for the steal. It's a very chaotic group, this Kings bench lineup. Russell Westbrook, Malik Monk, Dylan Cardwell, all of these guys are extremely chaotic players. But it is fun. You never know what's going to happen. When Russell Westbrook has the ball in his hands, something exciting is going to happen. I just don't know what it is. When Dylan Cardwell has the ball in his hands, I have no idea what's going to happen. Malik has been a little more stable this season, but we know he can be chaotic as well. And he even had a play where he crashed into Dylan Cardwell and still made a floater. But you had Westbrook hitting corner threes. You even had DeMar hitting corner threes. Lakers started to send doubles at DeMar. So the offense had a very good second quarter, and the Kings were able to make a little bit of a comeback in that second quarter. The start of the second half did not start well for the Kings, though, because Keon Ellis immediately picked up his 4th foul on Rui Hachimura. Malik Monk came in, but from there on out, it was pretty much a procession to the free throw line for the Lakers. That third quarter was insane. It was so slow because the Kings were so undisciplined, reaching in, could not defend without fouling. The offense was rough as well early on. Dennis Schroeder was the guy carrying the load with 2 early threes, one of them off the dribble, one of them off a Sabonis offensive rebound and kick out. Sabonis found a little more impact, I think, in the second half, looked just a little more comfortable and was better rebounding the ball and passing the ball. Zach LaVine then picked up the offensive load, scoring 8 straight for the Kings. And a lot of it was off of Sabonis' rebounding and passing. He had a great outlet pass to LaVine in transition. Sabonis started to gather some rhythm in this game. But then he picked up his 4th foul, going after a loose ball. And that was pretty much the story of the game for the Kings. It's like a little bit of rhythm and then a foul. Completely turns the tide again. Devin Carter came in, and he immediately, in his first minutes of the entire season, actually, within a second, I don't even think a second went off the clock, he immediately fouled Austin Reaves in the front court on the inbounds pass. And the Lakers were already in the penalty with over half of the quarter still left to go. That's just something that Devin Carter can't do, right? If you're trying to earn minutes, I understand what he's trying to do. Of course I do. He's trying to come in, pick up 94 feet, and show that he's giving effort and trying to get after Austin Reaves. Of course, I understand that, but you just have to be smarter. You just got to be smarter. That was such a frustrating play. And then right after that, Dylan Cardwell, going after an offensive rebound, just slightly bumps Austin Reaves, who falls out of bounds. And the only reason they call it is because he's falling out of bounds. If he wasn't going to fall out of bounds, they wouldn't have called that as a foul. But then he gets to go right back to the line. So, it was really frustrating. I mean, some of the officiating was frustrating, but, we won both of our challenges. So we challenged the calls that were bad. And it was mostly just playing undisciplined defense. There was a short bit of time where the Kings looked like they might be okay and they might play some good defense. Dylan Cardwell came in when Sabonis picked up that 4th foul. He was fighting for his life down low against 2 guys. Russell Westbrook, nowhere to be found. Westbrook sometimes can just roam around defensively. And so Cardwell was just down there fighting for his life, and he came up with a stop against 2 guys. there were some good plays from Cardwell at the rim in this game. Monk had a couple of threes playing off ball. And Russell Westbrook had some good moments offensively, scoring at the rim or setting other guys up with his passing. It wasn't a disaster of a third quarter, but it felt absolutely awful because of how many free throws the Lakers were getting and how it felt like the Kings were just handing them free points. The lineups that the Kings were putting out there towards the end of this third quarter were wild. Devin Carter, DeMar DeRozan, Russell Westbrook, Malik Monk, Dylan Cardwell. They replaced Dylan Cardwell with Dario Saric. And then at the very end of the third quarter, they went with Dennis Schroeder, Russell Westbrook, Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan. That is quite possibly the single craziest lineup that I have ever seen the Kings put out. Dennis Schroeder, Russell Westbrook, Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, and DeMar DeRozan. Just think about that. DeMar DeRozan is playing the 5. Of course, I understand it was only for 27 seconds and the Kings had the ball, so it was an offensive possession. They weren't going to play defense with that lineup. It's still insane. At the end of that third quarter, the Kings were just trying stuff. They tried Devin Carter. It absolutely didn't work. He had that early foul that I talked about. He also didn't close out on Austin Reaves on a three-pointer. Then he got a steal and was 1-on-2 and tried to force it inside and charge straight into Austin Reaves. So, I feel for Devin Carter. He hasn't gotten any minutes. It's tough to just come straight into a game after you haven't been playing any minutes to start this season. I get it, but he was so rough. To start the fourth quarter, the Kings made a little bit of a push. You had some good takes to the rim, Zach LaVine getting to the rim, Russell Westbrook making another corner three, Sabonis finally making a little bit of impact through scoring with a putback, and the Kings were actually able to get up 3. But when the Kings went up 3, this is where I really felt they lost the game. They went up 3, and they just missed a bunch of open shots in a row. Zach LaVine missed a mid-ranger, Kings offensive rebound. Keon Ellis misses a wide open corner 3, Kings offensive rebound. Keon Ellis, from the exact same spot, misses again. Then the Lakers come down and score. Next possession, Sabonis hit a 3, his first 3 of the season. I was not expecting that to go in. His shot looks so flat right now, but it went in. But then the next possession down, LaVine misses another open 3. Kings offensive rebound. LaVine steps out of bounds. So 3 offensive rebounds. The Kings missed 4 open shots plus stepped out of bounds. Then Westbrook went on to miss 2 free throws. And during those plays, Austin Reaves hit a tough 3. Hit another tough 3. He was targeting DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis in every action. And he just absolutely caught fire from deep. The Kings finally started to throw some numbers, double teams, started to blitz him, but then he would just make the smart decision. He would make the smart pass when Sabonis would get pulled away from the rim and blitz him. Then DeAndre Ayton's just down low against DeMar DeRozan, and it's too easy for Ayton against DeMar. So you're getting exploited by Ayton down low, getting exploited by Rui Hachimura down low. Even DeAndre Ayton outmuscled Domantas Sabonis for 1 rebound. And the Kings offense towards the middle of the quarter started to just jack up some hopeful threes. When Austin Reaves started to hit some threes, the Kings tried to respond with threes of their own through Schroeder and LaVine. LaVine did make a couple, but it felt like the Kings really went away from that team offense that we'd been seeing. Then they figured it out towards the end of the quarter a little bit, going to the action with Domas, LaVine, and Schroeder, and they started to get some open looks there, but at that point it was too late. The Kings had already gone down 11. Keon finally came in to defend Austin Reaves, but it just didn't matter much because of the size problems that the Kings were having. Even at one point, Keon got switched onto Rui and held his own, but everyone was just ball watching, expecting Keon to get walked down, and LaRavia just gets open for a wide open 3. Keon, for a large part of the end of this fourth quarter, felt like he was doing everything alone defensively. Got a little help from Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder had a crazy chase down block, which was unexpected. But yeah, the Kings went down 11. They tried to come back. Schroeder hit a 3. LaVine had an and 1. And I was happy to see LaVine starting to actually attack the rim because he settled a lot in the fourth quarter from 3. But it just didn't end up being enough. LaVine had a chance to tie this game up. He hit a 3. He had a chance right after he hit a 3 in transition to tie it up with a transition 3. But he missed that. Then you had the play where Dennis Schroeder got knocked over by Austin Reaves, and everyone's mad about that one. From me, I only saw one replay, but during live action and during the replay, I don't want the refs calling that. a foul. I don't think that's really a foul on Austin Reaves. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to go back and watch the replay, but it seems like Dennis Schroeder was kind of looking for it, and he should not be going down that easily. It forced Keon to switch onto Reaves and take a foul, and Keon fouled out there. But that opportunity early in the fourth quarter when they were up 3, they had so many chances, so many open looks, especially from 3. They weren't able to knock them down, and the Lakers came right back the other way and punished them for it, went on a massive run, went up 11, and at that point, the Kings had to be perfect, and I mean, they almost were. They had some great offensive possessions down the stretch, utilizing Dennis Schroeder, Zach LaVine, and Domantas Sabonis all together. And I liked seeing that. And I think that's something that the Kings can build upon late in games. But it is weird to have DeMar DeRozan sitting in a corner late in a game, which at that point, you're kind of asking, why is he on the team? And that's what I keep asking. Because DeMar had his moments, right? He scored 21 points, went 9 for 22 from the field, but it just feels like he doesn't really fit. So the Kings move to 1-2. Things are only going to get tougher from here. You have OKC, Chicago, and then Milwaukee, I think. But I think my main takeaway from this game, well, I have a few main takeaways. One is the one I already said, with where I think Keegan Murray needs to come into the starting lineup for DeMar, and DeMar needs to go to the bench, because then you can play a more defensive lineup with Keon Ellis that also has more spacing, because you saw the success that Schroeder, LaVine, and Sabonis had as the main offensive guys. I think that'll also free up more space for Sabonis as an offensive player, because he hasn't been scoring very much and has had very limited space offensively. Another takeaway that I had from this game was that Isaac Jones just needs to play. I don't care if he makes mistakes. You just need to see what he can provide you and give him more opportunity, because you just have no size, and it's depressing to watch. It's literally depressing when I look at the lineups. Like, not even when I'm watching the team play, but just when I'm looking at who's on the floor, it like hurts my basketball brain because it makes no sense. You're forcing Keon Ellis to be like a 3/4 out there. It's no wonder he's fouling out of the game. He should be playing the 2/1, not the 3/4. And you can't be small and have no shooting. So you might as well play Isaac Jones, even if he's not going to be much of a threat offensively, because you might as well get a little bit bigger. Looking at some of the offensive performances. I meant individual performances, but pretty much we can look at it as offensive performances as well. Malik Monk continues to have a strong start to the season. He was a team high +7, had 15 points. He also had the 2 blocks and the 2 steals. He's had a great start to the season, playing off the ball more and getting back more to what he did when he was playing with Fox, although he's even playing off the ball even more than then, I think. He went 3 for 6 from 3, has been great as a catch and shoot shooter. Westbrook off the bench, 18 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds in 27 minutes. Had a very solid offensive game, provided that energy off the bench that we need. And when his minutes aren't really conflicting with Keon Ellis' minutes, then I'm not too mad about what Russell Westbrook is doing off the bench. He can play as much as he wants as long as it's not affecting the minutes of Keon Ellis, because with Keon Ellis coming into the starting lineup, they weren't contending for minutes the same as I think they will be later in the season when the Kings are healthier. LaVine had 32.0 assists. Like I keep saying, 0 assists is fine by me. Just go out there and score 30 every night. That's fine. Schroeder had 18 and 12. DeMar had 21. Sabonis had 10 and 14. Only 10 points for Sabonis there, like I said. Was not finding his place within the offense in this game. But nobody else had any points off the bench, right? Keon had 6 in the starting lineup. But it was only Westbrook and Monk off the bench with 18 and 15. Nobody else scored off the bench. So we're really seeing the lack of depth here. I mean, especially on the wings and at the big position, but yeah, there's just no production off the bench outside of Monk and Westbrook. It's wild to see the Kings outshoot a team from 3 as much as they did in this game. They went 18 for 43. The Lakers went 8 for 25, and they still lose this game by 7. And they lose it because they couldn't get stops. So to see the Kings get absolutely demolished when the other team isn't shooting threes, get absolutely demolished on the defensive end, is extremely concerning, especially a Lakers team without LeBron and Luka, where the main guys for the Lakers are usually a team that has a very good free throw differential, but that's because they have LeBron and then also Luka now. not because they have Austin Reaves. And now it gets much harder for the Kings as they go into Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City does have their injury problems, but you're still going to have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander out there. And if we know one guy can get to the free throw line, it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Kings couldn't keep Austin Reaves out of the paint. They couldn't even keep Marcus Smart out of the paint. And Marcus Smart was drawing a bunch of fouls. So if he can draw a bunch of fouls, get into the paint, and get to the free throw line, imagine what Shai is going to do to this defense. The Kings have to be better at not fouling. They just have to be more disciplined. It's going to be extremely difficult against Shai. Keon Ellis is going to have a big task of guarding him for a lot of this game. Another guy to watch right now for this OKC team is AJ Mitchell, the UCSB Gaucho. I'm sure we'll hear that a lot from Katie. She manages to sneak UCSB into every game. But right now he is averaging 18.7 points per game, 4.3 assists per game. Has been very good to start this season for OKC. And he is the exact type of crafty player that I think the Kings tend to struggle with. So we're going to need to see the guards on this team, the million guards on this team, really lock in at the point of attack. Because if this team gets beat off the point of attack and lets the other team into the paint, it is pretty much over at that point defensively. But anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I will be back to recap that game against OKC Thunder. So I will see you guys then. Peace.